werewolves are getting their very own assassination skill. They're also getting a new stealth mode called Prowl, and a new ultimate ability. Hey everyone, it's Spopes. The patch notes for the Update 50 Playtest Server for the Elder Scrolls Online are out. This is a big update. The patch notes are chock full of information. But in this video, I'm going to summarize the changes to the werewolf and other important changes that are coming in this update. Notably, there is not any information on the Warden rework. I guess that's going to come later on in the PTS development cycle, but we have learned a lot about werewolf, class mastery, and other changes that are coming in U50. I'm not going to cover the entire patch notes. I'm not going to read every word. So click the link above or in the description for the full patch notes listed on the ZOS forums. In this video, I'm going to condense down the patch notes to the most interesting portions, and then provide my commentary at the end. Before we dive in, please make sure you've subscribed to the channel, please like and hype the video, and consider supporting me by becoming a member of the Spopes Army, checking out my merch, or leaving a donation. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let's dive into the U50 patch notes and what they mean for the werewolf and other aspects of ESO. First of all, it's important to note that these patch notes are for the playtest server, not the actual release, so everything in here is subject to change. Update 50 is the next major update in the game. It'll be coming in June, probably in the first couple weeks, sometime around June 10th. Some of the features being included in Update 50 include Challenge Difficulty, Veterancy, a new free Battle Pass type system for PvP, and Class Mastery, which is intended to balance pure classes with subclassing. Plus, we are also getting the rework to Werewolf, which is the major focus in these patch notes, and also it's going to be the major focus of this video. Plus, the new Thieves Guild and Sheogorath quest lines and favors are coming in U50. Those are all being tested in the PTS. And there are a smattering of player experience improvements coming in U50, nowhere near as many as there were in U49, but those will also be covered in the PTS patch notes. When I was looking at the table of contents here and they listed Dragonknight under the combat refresh, I initially hoped that was a typo, but as I mentioned, these patch notes do not cover the Warden rework that is coming, but there are quite a few bug fixes and balance changes for the Dragonknight. We're going to be learning about some new dies, a couple of which look really good, and they're reorganizing achievements, in some cases in some really much needed ways. So let's start off by learning a bit more about challenge difficulty, which now is available to test in the PTS. I've covered this before on my channel, and also ZOS has covered it at length in other articles and forum posts. But just to recap, there are 4 different tiers of challenge difficulty. Adventurer is the same as the current difficulty level. Then Seasoned gives you 50% more gold and 20% more experience, while you take 100% more damage and do 20% less damage. Master difficulty kicks things up a bit more. You take 4 times more damage and deal half the damage you usually do, but you get twice the gold and 75% more experience. Vestige is the most difficult option. You take 7 times more damage and only deal 1/5 of your usual damage, but you get 200% more gold and twice the experience. So no new information here. As I've mentioned before, I'm relatively disappointed with the way challenge difficulty is going to work at launch. You don't really get that much out of it, but the basic premise is great. That overland content like quests, adventuring through the overworld, this is all going to be harder. But yeah, I really call upon ZOS to make challenge difficulty more interesting in the future. Moving on to the next section. Veterancy, the new free PvP Battle Pass, is also being tested in the PTS, but it doesn't look like we're learning anything new in this article that hasn't already been covered. You get permanent titles after rank 50. Some of them you can only get during a particular Veterancy season. There are 100 ranks overall, and each Veterancy season lasts about 6 months. So yeah, nothing new there. Moving on. But now we're on to some really interesting stuff. Class Mastery is coming in Season 0, and here they say that it is a new feature that grants access to powerful passive effects for characters that have mastered or reached level 50 in all 3 of their native class skill lines. You cannot access this if you are actively subclassing. They're going to provide a broad overview here, then we'll learn more when we get to the combat section. Instead of using normal skill points, these new Class Mastery passives will use Class Mastery points. You can only have 2 for the time being. These points are automatically refunded if you start subclassing. They're being careful to say that this is just the first stab at Class Mastery, and it's going to improve as they go. And Class Mastery is going to change as they refresh the classes. There will be 5 different Class Mastery passives to choose from for each class. You can respec them using the normal respec feature. And for Class Mastery passives that upgrade a certain effect, you have to actually unlock that effect in your normal class skill line before it will be usable. All right, that's it for Class Mastery for now. We will learn more in the combat section later on. They've made some changes to Tamriel tomes, including the ability to have multiple tomes at a time. And then the new end-of-season experience features have been added to the game that I talked about in a recent video linked above. Basically, the salient points is there is now an auto-claimer that will claim any items that you haven't gotten at the end of the season if you have enough tome points. Up to 2,000 of the tome points you've earned will roll over to the next season. The rest will be converted to gold. Speaking of gold, they're adding the ability to re-roll weekly challenges for gold, starting at 500 gold and go up to 10,000. There is no limit to the number of times you can do this, as long as you have enough gold to pay for it. And the cost resets back to 500 gold every week with the weekly reset. Plus, once you unlock the bonus pages in the tome, you'll be able to do weekly challenges twice as many times, making it possible to get more tome points. I want to take this opportunity to address some of the feedback I've gotten in my video covering these changes to Tamriel tomes. I admit that maybe I came across as a bit negative, but as always with this channel, I'm just calling it as I see it. If I really like something, like the leaks we got of the Anu and Padme crates, I'll definitely say that. And if there's anything I don't like, I'll be honest about that too. I do get why they have the cap on the tome points that can be carried over. I still feel like this is kind of an iffy launch. It could have gone better, and the iterative changes they're making to the system don't really solve the problems that are there in my opinion. But I do also just want to restate that my overall opinion on Tamriel tomes has stayed the same from the beginning. I like the idea of Tamriel tomes. I think it's a good direction for the game to go. I'm just not particularly thrilled with the way it's working right at the beginning, and the changes they've made don't assuage my main concerns. But don't get me wrong, I like Tamriel tomes. I think it's a cool system, and I've enjoyed exploring it so far. The launch has just been marred with some confusing decisions they made, but given how fast they're adapting to feedback, I do have hope that Tamriel tomes will improve in the future. They've made some user experience improvements to Tamriel tomes as well, including new UI icons for tome points, tome tokens, and the seasonal section in the Gold Coast Bazaar. You can now claim all your tome point challenges at once. It'll be easier to preview the rewards, and there are a few other minor changes as well. But now we're getting into the really good stuff. The refresh to the Werewolf is coming in U50, and some of the highlights include the fact that it'll now be easier to stay in werewolf form. The werewolf models have been completely redesigned. Werewolves are physically larger now. There are 3 new colors for werewolf that you can get through dynamic encounters. Piercing Howl has been changed into Gnash, that has something to do with biting. And just like vampires, you are now going to be able to assassinate NPCs as a werewolf, using a mechanic called Slaughter. This is like the vampire's feed and also the Blade of Woe assassination. That is an unexpected but excellent change. Plus, werewolves have a new stealth mode called Prowl. This makes it much harder for monsters to see you, and you can also find hidden enemies with stealth detection. This makes slaughtering easier, and it also ties in perfectly with the new Thieves Guild questline. Werewolf is apparently the new stealth class. There have also been a few minor changes to Dragonknight. There are some new emerald green skill styles, for instance, that I covered in yesterday's leak video. There's also a new molten weapon skill style that keeps the appearance of your actual weapon. And they also updated the animation for Earthspike Mantle to make it look more aggressive. Alright, now we'll learn a little bit more about the new Thieves Guild questline. It's going to consist of 8 different story quests. There are new quests called Finder quests that I think are the new dailies. You'll be able to access heists and the other Thieves Guild daily quests from the new Thieves Den in Daggerfall. There's a new consumable item called Somnol Powder that stuns enemies. There's a new mythic that I covered in a recent video. And the reskin of Glenumbra is also coming with the Thieves Guild questline. The Sheogorath questline is not available in the PTS yet, but it will become available on April 21st. This one has 6 quests. There will be some new characters, and you'll be able to get an emote and a new pet from the questline. Favors are also now available in the PTS. These are new daily quests that give you a special reward at the end. And this, I believe, is the first time we're seeing that there are 20 quests per favor. So once you complete all 20 is when you get the reward, which is just a poster of the quest giver's face. Moving on to the player experience improvements that are coming. You will now be able to send mail to all your guild members. Only guild masters can do this at first. There are also transmute stations being added to mages guilds in these 12 locations. There's also a new Path to Adventure Golden Pursuit for new and returning players. You'll be able to deconstruct exemplary items. The maximum number of daily quests you can hold has gone from 50 to 100. Companions get faster XP gain, and they fixed some of the mistakes they made with U49's Vampire and Werewolf changes. Alright, moving on to the new titles and dies that will be available in U50. I don't really care about titles personally, but the 4 new ones are Superior Thief, Battle Scarred, Vestige of, and Freerunner. Moving on to the dies, we don't know what these look like yet, but Mad God's Berry, it looks like you're going to get that from the Sheogorath questline. That's probably a purplish die. Then we also have Anu White from the Seasoned Monster Slayer achievement. I'm hoping this is an actual bright white. It probably is if the new Anu versus Padme crates are any indication. We need a new white die aside from Juliana's white. Definitely looking forward to this. Also associated with new season Slayer achievements, we have Brassy Brass, Vinebeard Green, Boethian Ash, Brigand Brown, and Draugr Flesh. They're also making an effort to fix achievements in the way they're organized. Achievements for prologue quests, for instance, have been moved into the DLC or chapter they're associated with. Trial achievements now also have their own category. Arena achievements have their own new category as well. There's going to be a new general section for achievements that cross multiple dungeons or other types of content. All the recent achievements will be in a new achievement menu called Recent Seasons. Veteran achievements will be at the bottom of the list and will be easier to identify. And all the dungeons, trials, and arenas will be listed in alphabetical order. And this is a big deal for me because this was super annoying. All these dungeon DLCs are apparently being folded into the actual DLC itself. Having to figure out that Harrowstorm was a category for dungeons in Skyrim or the Reach, for instance, was super annoying. Overall, it looks like they're making the achievement system much easier to navigate now. There are going to be some new collectibles coming out, including Quen's Thieves Guild costume, an emote called Sheogorath's Blessed Cheese, the posters or handbills you'll get for favors, the Coldane Cartel motif you get from Thieves Guild daily quests, a new Alessian Rebel outfit from completing dynamic world events. I can't wait to see what that looks like. You'll also be able to get the Shivering Isle Tome Shell pet from the Sheogorath questline. The new Rogue's Refuge house is going to be provided with the Thieves Guild questline. And you'll be able to get the new Cold Harbor Blood Scion skill style from completing the new Vampire dynamic encounter in Glenumbra. And these 3 new colors of werewolf form will also be from dynamic encounters. Plus, you'll be able to buy these new Emerald Green skill styles for Dragonknight from Style Masters. Alright, moving on to combat and gameplay changes and fixes. There are quite a few minor fixes at the beginning. I'll cover any highlights, but it's just going to the PTS itself to learn more. One highlight is that pets are going to be a little bit tankier, mostly in PvP, but in U50, the maximum amount of damage a pet can take in a single hit is also going down. There are quite a few fixes to the new Dragonknight skills. Looks like Unblinking Eye, the Arcanist ultimate, is getting a bit of a nerf. Lava Whip in the Dragonknight is getting slightly nerfed, but the damage they're taking away is being added back into class mastery. The Nature's Gift passive in Warden is getting a slight nerf. Alright, now we're going to learn about the different class mastery passives that are being provided with each class. So for Warden, there's Tundra's Maw, that causes Chilled to also apply Major Brittle. Wild Adaptation increases your weapon and spell damage for each status effect on a target. Glacial Obstinance upgrades Bond with Nature to trigger off of Winter's Embrace abilities as well, and it gives you a 15% boost to weapon and spell damage if you are at full health after healing. Greenkeeper's Hide reduces your damage taken by 3% for every status effect on your attacker, up to 15%. And Nature's Bounty upgrades Nature's Gift to give the healed target major heroism and increase the amount of magicka and stamina restored. I guess that's pretty good. It seems a little bit weak to me though. For the Templar, the first class mastery passive is Bastion of Light. This heals you for 8% of your max health for every second that Sacred Ground is active. If you're at full health after the heal, you generate 2 ultimate while in combat. Sacred Ground is now also active when you're inside the area of your Nova or Spear Shards, or while Radial Sweep or Solar Barrage are active. That's pretty cool. Devout Guardian gives you a damage shield for 6 seconds, up to once every 6 seconds while Sacred Ground is active. It absorbs 20% of your max health and increases your stat recovery by 300. If your shield breaks, you get 10 ultimate. Also cool. Bright Harbinger upgrades the class passive Illuminate to give affected group members 300 weapon and spell damage, and it gives you 600. Judgment's Brand upgrades Burning Light to increase your damage done with Templar abilities by 1,250, half that in PvP, for 3.1 seconds after activating. Steadfast Candescence is a tanking class mastery passive. It increases the amount of damage you can block by 20% while stationary, and it gives you Sacred Ground while bracing. Well, the Templar class mastery passives are definitely more interesting to me. Moving on to Sorcerer, we start out with Conservation of Energy. This upgrades the class passive Blood Magic to activate off any ability with a cost, and it also restores 2% magic and stamina upon activation. Font of Power upgrades rank 2 of Exploitation to activate off any Sorcerer ability, and it gives you 1% weapon and spell damage for every 1750 max magic or stamina you have, whichever is higher, for 10 seconds. That's a really cool one. Static Reverberation gives any attacks that do damage a 1% chance for every 1% missing health the target has to do additional shock damage equal to 31.5% of either your weapon or spell damage, whichever is higher, once every 200 milliseconds. That's crazy. Having pets, though, reduces the percentage chance of this happening. Calculated Defense gives you a damage shield for 30% of your max health for half a second every time you activate a sorcerer ability or any ability with a cast time. If the shield does not break, you and your group members get 3% weapon and spell damage for 20 seconds. Then Sphere of Influence causes your damage shield abilities to give an additional damage shield to the target for 3 seconds that absorbs up to 15% of their max health, scaling off your max magicka or health. They also get an additional 150 resource regeneration. Moving on to the Nightblade, the passive upgrades Hemorrhage to give you a chance equal to your weapon critical chance to grant you 2 ultimates every 3 seconds. And Eye for Exploitation increases your weapon and spell damage by up to 1250 and reduces your damage taken by 12% based on your target's missing health. Above and Beyond increases your critical damage and healing by 15%, or 7% in PvP. It also increases your maximum potential critical damage and healing by 25%, taking the normal cap of 125% and increasing it to 150%. Evasive Trance causes you to dodge incoming attacks for 1/3 of a second when activating a Nightblade ability while bracing. Dodging any attack this way causes your attacker to take 5% increased damage for 5 seconds, and then share the Spoils Upgrades Transfer to double the ultimate you gain, while also giving 250 magicka and stamina regeneration and 1 ultimate to the 4 nearest group members. That's going to change Nightblade a lot. In Necromancer, we have Nothing Wasted that upgrades corpse consumption to give you a stack of Nothing Wasted for up to 12 seconds with a max of 10 stacks. This increases your max health and damage by 2%. If stacks reach full, you lose 3 stacks and refresh instead of losing all of them. So finally, there's going to be a reason to consume corpses. Malevolent Promise also upgrades corpse consumption to mark the nearest monster with Death's Touch for 6 seconds when you consume a corpse, which allows you to use a corpse-consuming ability against them. That can occur once every 2 seconds. Whoa. Cycle Unending upgrades reusable parts to also grant Lord of the Cycle for 25 seconds, increasing your damage by 1% for every 1% more current health percent you have compared to your enemy, capping at 25%. Then Pound of Flesh gives you a 1% chance when taking damage to restore 10% health and 5% of your missing stamina. This increases by 1% for every 1% missing health you have. Lastly, there's At the Precipice. This activates when you directly heal a target under 50% health and allows you to use a corpse-consuming ability against them for 10 seconds. All these changes to the way corpses work are absolutely nuts. I'm liking this a lot. Then for Dragonknight, we have Inexorable Descent that upgrades Landslide to also grant 1% potency to damage and healing done, and damage shield strength per stack. Booming Voice upgrades rank 2 of Storm Voice to grant 1 health, magicka, and stamina per ultimate spent for 10 seconds. Wildfire Embers upgrades Dragonknight damage over time effects to apply a unique 12-second damage over time effect on enemies whenever the triggering abilities end. This stacks up to 12 times, increasing by 25% damage per stack. That could end up being pretty OP. Resolute Defense is a tanking class mastery passive that increases the amount of damage you can block by 6% every second you remain bracing, up to 30%. Oh, Dragonknight's gonna be the best tank again. Blocking has a 20% chance to restore 500 stamina up to once every quarter second. And lastly, Lead from the Front upgrades rank 2 of Storm Voice to apply Major Berserk and Protection for 1 second per 15 ultimates spent to both you and your group members within 28 meters. And now lastly, we have the class mastery skills for Arcanist. Abyssal Emergence upgrades your Arcanist ultimates to immediately generate 3 crux upon activation. It also gives you 666 weapon and spell damage for 15 seconds after activating. Oh, that's crazy. Fate Realigned upgrades rank 2 of Implacable Outcome to generate 3 crux upon activation and to grant 300 weapon and spell damage for 25 seconds, up to once every 15 seconds. Unbound Potential upgrades Fated Fortune to increase your damage done by 30%, or 15% in PvP for 7 seconds. Erudite's Rigor upgrades Fate-Woven Armor to also grant 1 ultimate and 300 magicka and stamina when you take damage, increasing by 100 magicka and stamina per crux you have, up to once every 2 seconds. And then Inkscribe's Verse enables you to generate a crux when you heal or overheal a total of 750,000 health while in combat. That seems like a lot, but maybe if you're a dedicated healer in Trials, it won't be that much. I almost wonder if that's a typo and it's meant to be 75,000. But anyway, that's it for Class Mastery. I'm not sure how I feel about some of these. I feel like the passives for Arcanist and Necromancer are the best. While some of them are kind of confusing, it's hard to see their utility. But I guess we'll have to see how these operate in the field to really get a full picture. Generally, I like the idea of class mastery. I can't wait to see where it goes, but I'm not sure if some of these are enough to really compete with subclassing. Again, we'll just have to see. All right, now lastly, we're going to learn some more about the changes coming to Werewolf. I'm going to leave off at that because this has already become a really long video, and it's pretty much just bug fixes after that point. But again, we're getting Prowl, which is a new stealth ability. It costs 5,000 stamina to activate, and there's a 3-second cooldown, and it overrides your character posture to begin to sniff around. Very cool. Slaughter is again the new assassination skill. It's meant to be fun, and it'll be really useful in challenge difficulty. Werewolf transformation has been changed considerably. It now only costs 100 ultimate to activate, but it drains 100 ultimate every 10 seconds while it's active. Failing to have 100 ultimate will forcibly detransform you. It doesn't cost any ultimate to be in werewolf form outside combat though, and you can now generate ultimate while you are a werewolf, and that's how you're going to sustain werewolf form. That's a huge difference, being able to generate ultimate as a werewolf now. Werewolf form no longer increases your maximum stamina by 30%. However, it scales abilities that use stamina or magicka up by 30%, meaning you'll have the same power pretty much, but without the larger resource pool. You'll take slightly more poison damage now, down from 25% to 10%. Werewolf abilities that cost stamina now cost 1/3 of their ability category counterparts, instead of costing 25% more. This is supposed to make it easier to be a werewolf as a non-stamina character. The cost has been shifted to maintaining the form, rather than managing resources. Werewolves don't get 50% increased damage anymore, but they're still going to be super powerful based on some of their changes. And now here's what's really cool. Werewolves have their own new ultimate ability now. There's a new unique resource called Fury that generates from activating werewolf abilities in combat. It gets up to 1,000, and each ability activated gives you 15. It doesn't decay, but if you leave werewolf form, you lose your Fury. Morphs and passives can increase the amount of Fury you get, and when you have 1,000 Fury, your ultimate ability is replaced with Rampage. This drains all your Fury and gives you a 20-second window of increased power, increasing your movement speed by 20%, damage done by 15%, and removes the cost of all werewolf abilities, including the transformation. You won't be able to leave werewolf transformation while it's active. That is absolutely amazing. It really fits with the overall werewolf idea and aesthetic, and it's going to give you the sense of progression as you're in combat. You're getting more and more powerful as you go. Also, werewolf light attacks no longer have a base damage cap. And then we're getting into all the passives here and all the abilities, but I feel like I'm going a bit long. For more information, just go to the patch notes and read through this. I just wanted to cover the most pertinent details. What I do want to say is that Piercing Howl has been replaced with Gnash, which is a melee biting ability instead of a projectile ability. I'll probably make a second video here soon covering just the changes to Werewolf in more detail. Just before we go, I do want to mention they're changing the name of Class Mastery scripts and scribing to Class Flourish, so it doesn't overlap with the new Class Mastery passive system. They give some more information about Prowler's Talisman as well. That's a new Thieves Guild mythic. Basically, crouching turns you invisible. It increases your chances of pickpocketing by 5%. Your max magicka and stamina increase when you deal critical damage. And when you do non-critical damage, you increase your health, magicka, and stamina recovery. There are some changes to existing sets. And then we have bug fixes. But yeah, overall, we are getting a ton of changes in U50. It looks like they're focusing more on combat with this update, doing some balancing that has been much needed. Plus, Class Mastery is coming, the Werewolf refresh is coming. We're getting changes to achievements, along with many new achievements and dies and titles. There's so much to unpack here that I actually went a bit overlong and couldn't dive too deep into the werewolf skills. But I will come out with a dedicated werewolf video sometime in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, just generally, I am more hyped for U50 now than I was before. The lack of considerable player experience improvements is kind of discouraging to me, but I'm really liking the way the Class Mastery is looking, and also all the changes to the Werewolf. So in the comments, let me know what you think about all these changes, what you're most excited for, where they're going to be playing Werewolf again just like me, and also do leave your tips on Werewolf. It's been probably 5 years since I've played as a Werewolf, so I don't remember much about it. What's your favorite class for Werewolf, your favorite gear setup? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you haven't, please do subscribe to the channel, like and hype this video, and consider supporting me by becoming a member, picking up some merch, or leaving a donation. Now, as always, we're going to finish up with a prayer to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Lord, thank you for the breadth of the changes coming in ESO U50. Thank you to the staff at ZOS for putting together all this information for us. Lord, please bless everyone at ZOS, and also do bless my community. I thank you, Lord, for all my community members. For those who are Christian but struggling to follow you, bring them to your side, Lord. And also, Lord, please bring to your side any recently departed souls across the world. I give all glory to you, Lord, for the channel and the video today. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. All right, again, everyone, thanks for watching. Please do comment with your thoughts below. And before you go, please remember to like, hype, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, turn on notifications, because I'll be back soon with new content.